Today we are going to discuss about updating history. The discipline of history needs to be constantly updated. What is meant by updating history? Updating doesn't mean only changing the subject in the light of new sources of information, though that is one way of updating history. Another way of updating is, while writing history, you make certain assumptions, you make certain proposals. So whether the proposals are right or wrong also should be seen in the light of contemporary experience. In the case of Indian history, I am referring to modern Indian part. Indian historians generally took the stand that Jinnah's two-nation theory was wrong. And it appears they continue to maintain the same thing in the history books without seeing whether Jinnah's theory was right or wrong in the light of experience in post-independent India. First, let us examine what was Jinnah's two-nation theory. First point is that he said Hindus and Muslims are two different nations, and they have been hostile to each other historically. So they have been hostile, in conflict all through. So what is the importance of that point? Because of that hostility or non-mixing up of these two identities, democracy will not work equally towards these two identities. Hindus will dominate Muslims. Hindus and Muslims will not be equal in a democracy, because democracy leads to majority rule. So his argument is essentially an argument against the possibility or the inevitability, in his view, of majoritarianism of Hindu community. So he said Muslims should have a separate nation. So that was his argument. Books portray as if Jinnah was seeking a non-secular state, whereas India was seeking a secular state. It was not true. Jinnah believed in secularism For example, in his speech made to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan, he said Hindus and Muslims should forget they are Hindus and Muslims in Pakistan. Not doesn't mean that they should forget their religious identities, but in matters of state, those identities should not count. They are equal citizens. That is nothing but secularism. So, he wanted Pakistan to be secular. He didn't want Pakistan to be an Islamic state. But of course, it is a different matter what he wanted Pakistan to be and how it is so different from what finally Pakistan came to be. That's a different issue. But what is important here is that Jinnah's argument is not based on anti-secularism. It is based on fear of majoritarianism. Fear of majoritarianism. So, he proposed two-nation theory because he believed that the democracy would work to the advantage of the Hindus and Muslims would be marginalized. This history textbooks have rejected. They said it as secularism versus something else. So now what is meant by updating history? So updating means that Jinnah's position that in post-independent India would be a majoritarian state should be examined in the light of post-independent Indian experience. So how are Muslims treated in India after independence? Did they get equal citizenship? Or are they discriminated? In my opinion, there is enough ground to think that Muslims have not been equal to Hindus. There are many incidents to show that this is a Hindu state despite the promise of secularism. If historians don't think so, then they should explain why it is not so. I don't think they have explained it either. So, in the light of contemporary experience, we may be in a position to say Jinnah was right. And if Jinnah was right, his theory of two nations would be right, and creation of Pakistan would be right. So, historians should have a relook at their conclusions and then revise. But have Indian historians done that? They are nowhere near it. They continue to teach the old thing. So it, in fact, prevents understanding of, sympathetic understanding of our neighbor, that is Pakistan. This has certain implications. Thank you.